So I'm a fan of the Silent Hill series. Yeah, I'm also a liar. Gonna be honest, I haven't gotten super invested in these games until now. Back in June, I made this kind of awful commentary video about being apprehensive about the remake of Silent Hill 2. It's bad. It's really bad. So I thought I'd do it justice by actually playing through Silent Hill 2 and making a review of it just in time for that remake to come out. I've been into survival horror ever since I first played the RE2 remake. Heck, I even streamed it a bit. Don't you dare watch those. But I haven't ever ventured outside of Resident Evil. I have played a bit of the first Silent Hill game, but hey, I guess this review is when I give the game series a proper try, huh? We start the game and get this really nice looking menu screen, and if we wait for a bit, we get this CGI intro thing that has one of the greatest themes I've ever heard. It's called Theme of Laura. Listen to how fantastic it is. So after being graced with one of the best musical pieces I've ever heard in the entire world, we start a new profile and see that we can actually choose different puzzle and combat difficulties, which is pretty cool. I chose easy puzzles because I'm a little stupid. We open on an iconic scene of the protagonist, James Sunderland, in a bathroom. He says that his wife, Mary, had sent him a letter saying to come find her in Silent Hill in their special place, despite the fact that she apparently died 3 years ago due to a disease. Starting gameplay, this game looks really good. Of course, this is like the fan remaster of the PC port, which upscales all the textures to be HD, but even on the original PS2 version, it still looks really good. All the environments have this super grimy, overly detailed look, which really helps give them this really creepy atmosphere. It works really good. Most of the Silent Hill games do this. We head out into the forest and we get introduced to the save mechanic, which is red paper. It works. It's just kind of weird. Speaking of weird, we meet this strange woman named Angela who says she's looking for her mother. She tells us the town is dangerous, but James doesn't really care. Anyways, we eventually find a trail of blood, which can only lead to great things, so we follow it. We then find a radio and a monster. I can't believe the trail of blood led me to danger. We take this wooden plank and kill the monster. Oh, would you look at that, the streets are calling with them. How lovely. We eventually make our way to this creepy apartment, and now that we're in a proper survival horror location, I feel like it's a good time to talk about the gameplay. For movement, you can use either tank controls or normal directional controls. By the way, play this game with a controller. The keyboard controls are horrible. Wowzers, it's almost like this PS2 game designed for a PlayStation is best played with a PlayStation controller. Who would have known? Now, as this is a survival horror game, the gameplay loop consists of navigating a big location, solving puzzles, and managing resources like health and aid. Does this game do it well? Yeah, later on, but I think the Woodside apartments are just a little... they're not very scary. The puzzle part is pretty good, though. Most of the enemies can just be beaten with melee combat. Oh, right, melee combat! In the original Silent Hill 2, the melee combat was very clunky, kind of impractical, something you didn't really want to use, which most survival horror games do because melee combat isn't a limited resource. And then right here, I was about to go on a little tangent about how you can't really have very smooth and fun melee combat in a survival horror game, but then the remake came out and apparently proved me completely wrong. So let's move on, shall we? Like most classic survival horror games, this game uses fixed camera angles. Sometimes. You see, the thing about old Silent Hill is that, like, it would alternate between fixed camera angles and also just a very pulled back 3D camera angle that you could kind of control. It's alright. I think it can get stuck way too often, although there is a button to put it right behind you, so that does work. The actual fixed camera angles themselves look great, especially since this is like fully 3D, unlike something like Resident Evil, which used pre-rendered backgrounds. But yeah, it's interesting, I guess. Eventually, we find a flashlight. Not much to explain about this mechanic. It's a flashlight. You can turn it off for some reason. I think it's so that enemies can't spot you, but I never really noticed the change in their behavior. We also find a gun. Unlike the melee, the guns are pretty snappy to use, but are, of course, limited in resources, so you gotta conserve them. So we continue on, surviving our horror, and then eventually we find a key behind some bars. And James tries to grab it before some stupid kid steps on his hand, laughs at us, leaves, then James does his Shadow the Hedgehog impression.
Damn it!
After we survive even more horrors, we hear a baby crying, and then we see one of the best horror villain introductions I've ever seen. This is Pyramid Head. We meet him as he just kind of stands there behind the bars, staring us down. This is absolutely fantastic. Most horror games or movies just have a big scene where the monster kills someone or something like that, but Silent Hill 2 just has him appear. It's so much more cool and creepy like that. Anyways, we engage in even more fun activities like finding a corpse, shoving our hand down a hole, and seeing Pyramid Head do this. We then find this rather portly man throwing up into a toilet, screaming about not killing someone. His name's Eddie, and James talks with him for a bit before he continues throwing up. Gross. We eventually try to use the fire escape, and, that's a pretty crap fire escape. Am I right, guys? Instead, it's right next to the apartments next door, so, James just kind of steps into the apartments next door. James then sticks his hand in the most dirtiest toilet I've ever seen. What is wrong with you, man? After surviving even more horrors, we come across Angela holding a knife, just lying on the floor. James talks to her, and through this conversation, we get the impression that she's, depressed, abused, and definitely suicidal. At the end, she gives James her knife and leaves. Then Pyramid Head returns, and we participate in a kind of boss fight. You just kind of avoid his attacks until a siren goes off. After that, the apartment is suddenly empty, and we exit it, eventually finding the stupid kid who stepped on our hand. She somehow also knows Mary and accuses James of never loving her, which is the first of many accusations of this. Eventually, we end up at Rosewater Park, and we meet up with this weird, provocatively dressed woman named Maria, who looks a lot like Mary, and we get the second accusation that James hated Mary. James also realized that the special place his wife wanted him to go to is probably the Lakeview Hotel, so he decides to try and head there. We head out with Maria for some reason because she follows us. Our next destination is Pete's Bowl-O-Rama, and when we get there, Maria doesn't join us because she hates bowling because she's lame. Well, it sucks to be you, Maria, but I'm gonna go have a grand old time in Pete's Bowl-O-Rama!
Nice throw!
So we head in, excited to bowl, and we end up finding Eddie with the stupid kid eating pizza. The kid keeps insulting Eddie, and we found out he may or may not be running from the cops. The kid, whose name is Laura, then says she's also looking for Mary, and then just kind of dips. James gets frustrated that Eddie isn't taking care of Laura at all, and then James utters a legendary, generation-defining line.
This town is full of monsters. How can you sit there and eat pizza?
Although seriously, how did he get that pizza in this town? And then we have to leave because apparently the safety of children is more important than bowling. Yeah, right. I didn't even get the bowl. SMH. James heads out to find Laura, regrouping with Maria, and we traverse through that. Who designed this town? We end up near a strip club, and Maria uses the magical superpower of hurrah to get a key to go into it. Fortunately, Laura is not in the strip club, and we head to the hospital. Oh my god, it's Opium Pride sighting! Woo! We eventually make it to the hospital and get introduced to the scariest enemies, the nurses. I hate them so much. They're so creepy. The way they twitch, the fact that they are way more mobile than most of the other enemies, especially the sounds they make. There's just a huge sense of dread hearing their screeches and watching their twitchy bodies walk toward them. I hate them so much. Ugh. If you couldn't tell from that rant, this hospital is way better than the apartments at being a scary survival horror location. It's way more tough and therefore scary. Even if we find a shotgun, that does not make things less scary because we barely get any ammo for it, so you just have to make your shots count. As we dilly-dally throughout the hospital, Maria eventually starts coughing and decides to lay down for a bit, so we go on without her. As we continue our dilly-dallying, Pyramid Head knocks us off the roof because he's a jerk, and we eventually find Laura, and before we can take her out of the hospital, she says she has a letter from Mary in the room she was hiding in, and when we go in there, the stupid kid locks us out, and we have to fight our first actual boss. That. It's called Flesh Lip. We kill it, and then a siren goes off, turning the hospital into, the evil hospital. It's super evil because it's creepier, harder, and Maria is missing. Until we eventually find her in the basement, to which she gets upset at us, and her actress just gives, a really good performance.
Anyway! What do you mean, anyway? You don't sound very happy to see me.
After that little rant of hers, we go back to searching for Laura, engage in a quiz show, which I lose and get stuck at low health because of. Then Pyramid Head returns, because, I couldn't go on without him, as he chases us, and he stabs Maria, killing her. And after all that, we find Laura, the entire reason we came here, just casually walking out. We then go into a huge town-wide search for a key to the Silent Hill Historical Society. And guess what? The stupid nurses are on the streets. We eventually do find the key, get into the Historical Society, then jump down a hole. We head to the next section, the sewers / the prison / the labyrinth. It's alright. It's still scary. It's just a little confusing, annoying, and a little overstays its welcome a bit. There's 3 different parts to it. When we start the second part, we find Eddie with a dead body as he starts talking about people insulting him and how easy it is to just kill a guy. Then we jump down a hole, then we jump down another, then we jump down another, and then we get Pyramid Head's knife. Yeah, it's extremely clunky, extremely dangerous to use, and makes James really slow, but it is a one-hit kill if you time it right, so it's pretty cool. It's Pyramid Head's knife. It's a cool weapon. Come on. This is cool. We then find Maria again. Yes, you watched her die. I guess she just walked it off. She mentioned a videotape James and Mary filmed at the Lakeview Hotel, and then tries to seduce James, because of course she is. We head off to unlock her cell before finding Angela being attacked by the second boss, which is called Abstract Daddy. So after we kill the boss, it's really heavily implied that Angela was abused by her dad, physically and sexually, and I don't really want to talk about this. I don't feel comfortable about it. Team Silent did write it well, but yeah, I just don't feel very comfortable about it. She yells at us, she accuses James of many things, but more importantly, not loving Mary again. She runs off, and we continue on. And then Maria dies again because, We then exit the sewers, finding Eddie again. He's completely lost it, saying he's not going to let anyone make fun of him anymore, and he'll just kill them. You see, Eddie's whole thing is that he was bullied for being rather portly, and he was a bit of a loser, so it got so bad one day that he just decided to shoot a dog, and then shoot the dog's owner, and he ran from the police, ending up in Silent Hill. What a nice guy. Oh, and you want to know what he says about, shooting the dog?
Yeah, I killed that dog. It was fun. It tried to chew its own guts out. Finally died all curled up in a ball.
Yeah, this guy is a stark contrast from Angela. James then tells Eddie, hey dude, don't try to kill people. That's like not epic in Poggers. Trust me. That's what he actually said in the game. Trust me. And Eddie's a bit too far gone if you couldn't tell. And we have our third boss, a fat dude. We kill him relatively easy because it's just a fat dude. And we just killed a human. And James doesn't exactly take that pretty well, as a human would. So after some good old homicide, we move on and we make it to Lakeview Hotel. After spending way too long in this boat section because I'm stupid and I didn't follow the stupid light. This is why I set puzzles to easy. Lakeview Hotel is a pretty good finale. Although it's not nearly as scary as the hospital, which overall I'd say fits this game. It's not so much scary as it is disturbing and just off-putting. The environments are off, the people are off, and the voice acting fits that pretty well. This is a very, very cold take, but the meh voice acting sounds more intentional and convincing to me because it really sells the characters as these weird, mentally disturbed people. Except Laura. She's just a menace. Oh, and there's also the fact that occasionally the game just pulls out really good voice acting, so it's probably intentional for the characters to sound and speak a little off, so there's also that. Speaking of Laura, we find her playing the piano, as we realize she actually met Mary when she was sick in the hospital. Mary gave her a letter telling her that she's in a better place, that she should trust James, and wishing her a happy 8th birthday. Then James asks her how old she is, and Laura replies,
I turned 8 last week.
Which, doesn't line up with what James said, Mary dying 3 years ago from a disease. So now he's starting to question how she died, or if she's even dead at all. After surviving some horrors, we go through a quick section which has us walk around with no inventory, which, is pretty scary, so I guess this hotel does have a pretty creepy part. We play Creepy Music Box and get to James' hotel room 312, and we play the tape. At first, it seems just kind of like a normal tape, a husband and a wife just bonding in their hotel room. But then we see Mary lying in bed, and then James is suffocating her with a pillow. And now everything lines up. Mary never died of the disease. James killed her. Why? Well, Mary did get sick, and this resulted in her occasionally acting hostile and kind of violent towards her loved ones, which made it so that James began to hate her. This is why Maria exists. She's James' ideal version of her, being very playful, agreeing, tapping into his lust. This also explains the nurses, which are created from James' envy of the nurses who cared for Mary, who looked much better off and more attractive than Mary did at her current state, which again made James hate her. I like how the revelation itself is handled too, with James just kind of sitting there processing everything instead of him talking to him to be like, I killed her, or something like that. I find how this game does it just way more believable. Laura comes in, asking James if he found Mary. James tells her the truth, and she understandably gets upset and leaves. After that, we keep going. Now we're in the evil hotel, which is like the evil hospital, except not as scary. It's more just a build-up to the ending. We find Angela in this burning room saying she deserved everything that happened to her, which is apparently what her mom used to say to her. Then she walks off into the flames, and that's the last we see of her. Anyways, we traverse the evil hotel, and eventually we find Maria again. This woman won't die. Oh, look at that. Can't wait to see her alive and kicking again. So yeah, Pyramid Head kills Maria again. Oh, there are two of them now. James also realizes Pyramid Head only exists because he felt like he needed to punish himself over what he did to Mary. And we engage in another dodging boss battle, I think. I spent most of my time dodging, but then I hit one of them with my shotgun once, and it immediately ended, so I don't know. But the Pyramid Heads then killed themselves, now that James has overcome his guilt and moved on, no longer needing to punish himself. That's good. Pyramid Head was a great one-off antagonist that was central to James, and while I did enjoy him, it's nice that they never ever brought him back, because that would just be dumb. I mean, he's central to James' character. It just wouldn't make sense if any other character showed up and he was there and he just was in a place where he shouldn't have been. We then reached the final area, hearing a conversation between Mary and James back when she was still sick, hearing what it was like, how kind of hostile she was, yet really sad she was, yelling at James only minutes later, pleading for him to come back. We then reach the final boss. We find Maria in the form of Mary? I don't know. The game says it's Maria. She tries to woo James again, telling him to stay with her, but he rejects her, and she attacks him as we fight the final boss. It's just flesh lips, but with bats. We then defeat evil ghost Mary Maria thing, and then James talks to Mary one last time. He admits that he began to hate her, that he killed her mostly out of selfish reasons. But he realizes, even so, he still does love her, and she tells him to please go on with his life, giving him a letter. The same letter that we got at the beginning of the game. After that, we get a scene of a graveyard, as Mary reads out the letter, where she says that through everything, feeling a burden, getting hostile on people, generally just feeling pathetic and disgusting, she still loves James, and says he made her happy. We then see James and Laura walking around the graveyard as the credits play this banger song. Woo! Unless you got one of the other endings. There's two other endings you can get. In Water, where James drives his car into water with Mary. And the other, called the Maria ending, where he leaves with Maria. I personally like the leave ending, the one I got the most. It makes the most sense with James' arc, and I also just like happy endings. There's also one added in the re-release where he uses the power of Silent Hill to resurrect Mary. One which is part of the greatest Silent Hill canon ever, where he gets captured by aliens and meets the protagonist of Silent Hill 1, and this gets continued on in Silent Hill 3. And another one where it's revealed everything happened because of a dog. And this one has the greatest credits theme ever. It's all determined by like small things you do and how much you heal yourself, and I like it when games have clear indicators of whether or not you're going to get a certain ending. Yeah, sorry. Well, that's Silent Hill 2. It's a great, fantastic game. I know, what a hot take. I wouldn't call it my favorite survival horror game. That still has to be like Resident Evil 7, but Silent Hill 2 is an absolute classic nonetheless. So what happened after this? Well, Konami made Silent Hill 3, which I think is pretty good. Silent Hill 4, which is divisive. Then the rest of the series just plummeted into mediocrity, except for Shattered Memories. That game seems pretty sick. Konami did an HD remaster of this game with new acting and...
I'm looking for Silent Hill. Is this the right way?
Yeah. It's hard to see with this fog, but there's only the one road. You can't miss it.
Thanks.
But
Yes?
I think you better stay away.
Yeah.
I'm looking for Silent Hill. Is this the right way?
Yeah. It's hard to see with this fog, but there's only the one road. You can't miss it.
Thanks.
But
Yes?
I think you'd better stay away.
This doesn't sound right. It sounds like Resident Evil, not Silent Hill. Also, it's stupid buggy. Survival horror at its best? Yeah, okay, pal. Then Silent Hill Downpour happened, and it was trash. Then Silent Hills almost happened, which is going to be made with Kojima, the guy who made Metal Gear, which is one of my favorite franchises ever, but Konami canceled it because they suck. So now we're left with the remake coming out soon, or, well, it's already out now. Is it good? Does it respect the original? Well, people do seem to like it. The only thing I can say is, I don't know, I haven't played it yet.